I'm Brittany.
And I'm Drew.
And for the past 5 years, we've been exploring the world by van. Subscribe, and we look forward to sharing where this unpredictable adventure takes us all. Hello, beautiful desert land that we get to call home. I got all our goods set up for breakfast, and Drew is out here grooming. You want to see how it's done? We're doing some manscaping.
Some manscaping, landscaping.
All right, we're gonna keep breakfast fairly simple this morning, guys. Look at him checking himself out in his reflection. I love it.
What do you think, babe? Goatee or just the mustache?
Just do the mustache.
Mustache?
What do you guys think? Mustache?
Mustache.
And now for the final touch. Honey for my honey. Oh. Perfect timing.
What do you think?
You are handsome.
You put a little lotion on. We're out here in this dry, arid weather. But this was a perfect place to be doing my manscaping because there's nobody around and I can use the van as my mirror.
Perfect.
All right, let's eat.
We're gonna dig in and we'll see you back here after. Now that breakfast is in our bellies, I can take a moment and fill you guys in on what we've been up to over the past few days since we saw you last. After flying in a hot air balloon in Albuquerque, which was so magical, we then headed over to the Petrified National Forest, which that's out of this world too. And for those of you who've never seen petrified wood before, this is what it looks like. And it's as smooth as a rock, hard as a stone. Look at those colors in there. Amongst these amazing blue hills.
This petrified piece of wood is one of my favorites.
Ooh.
Look at that color. Looks like a hot dog with ketchup and mustard on it.
And now we're in Sedona. Today we wanted to take the time, sit down with you all, and fill you in on a subject and huge chapter of our lives that is near and dear to our hearts. The 2.5 years that we spent traveling Europe in a van. So how did we buy a van in Europe? Why did we decide Europe? How did we manage to do it for so long? And why did we return to the US to build out yet another van? Spirit is our 5th van home. Also our first ever conversion, but we have so much to fill you guys in on. There's going to be a lot of helpful tips, huge nuggets of information, and just some stories that you're not going to want to miss. So stick around. Hey, you know what we can put up?
What?
Our moonshade. It is sunny out here.
Super warm on this nice Arizona day.
Probably the warmest place we could be in America right now.
Glad to be here.
Me too.
Our moonshade, super compact, lightweight. It was started by a fellow van lifer himself, and they're doing an awesome Kickstarter campaign for it. I think it's almost reached its goal, so we're gonna put it up and yeah, let's enjoy it.
One suction cup. your moonshade experience is complete. We love the dome shape. It's excellent for when it rains. Excellent! It's super wind resistant, and at night, moonshade.
Woo!
Is that you howling at the moonshade?
Howling at the moonshade.
One thing that you might be noticing is that somehow our angle of the light is not casting shade right where our little mat is, but that's okay because actually what we're loving it for right now is that it's casting a shade on our van, which makes our van much cooler inside, and that's where we're going to be talking with you guys.
Are we?
I like sitting on this little cushion.
Let's get nice and cozy. Welcome to our love seat.
You guys can grab a beverage and join us.
Prost.
Chin chin.
Chin chin.
Zing! Coffee. Alright, so how did this all get started? How did our van life in Europe adventure happen? I guess it all started after our first year of traveling around the US and Canada in Drew's family's camper van.
Hey guys, we're gonna give you a tour today of our 21-foot Dodge Freightliner Sprinter van. It's outfitted by Leisure Travel, 5-cylinder diesel, and we've been living it in the last 9 months.
We originally planned to teach English in Asia, but when our families heard of that, they said, why not go ahead and explore your own country first and then go overseas? And we thought, well, that's a great idea.
We did a massive counterclockwise loop. We fell in love with the van life. We wanted to figure out how do we incorporate more culture into the van life experience.
Along with that, we had been planning our wedding on the road. So we completed our circle, made it back to Florida where our families are, had our wedding, and 5 days later, we flew to England. Night number 1.
Let's go. Celebrating our time in London.
And our wedding. Woo! Go, babe, go.
In the dead of winter.
We absolutely love Old Blighty, although she tested us because we were just, I guess, a bit naive. We didn't realize how cold it was going to be in England in February. Week 1 of living in the Howlin' Yowler. It's cold. We like him. Let me put that tea. They seem to have PG tips everywhere. It's warm over here.
We try to migrate like the birds. Be in the south, be in warm places. Our ideal van temperatures are daytimes between like 70 and 85, and nighttime about 50 to 60 degrees, somewhere in there.
Hence us being in the desert as winter is starting to come on, and why something like the moonshade is absolutely crucial for us because we seek an endless summer. Woo! Oh my God.
We had contemplated traveling the Pan America Highway, but we felt just so compelled to go to Europe. Brittany's family was originally from France.
The other thing about the Pan American Highway is that it's attached to America. And so when we're older or whatever, it's easier for us to access that part of the world versus we were young and crazy. We're still young and crazy.
Still a little loose and crazy.
But we thought Europe is the place because that is the landmass that has the most culturally diverse countries, just one next to the other, and they're borderless.
Which leads us to our visa regulations and restrictions in following the Schengen Agreement, which is a unified border among 8 countries. And the Schengen Agreement allows you to stay 90 days out of 180 days in the Schengen zone, and then you can leave. And the hack to that is you could go to the Balkan countries, you could go to the UK, you could go to Morocco.
So once you enter into the Schengen zone, your clock starts ticking.
After our wedding, we jumped on that plane. We had our hotels booked with those points we talked about, and we worked then with a beautiful couple who started a company called Quirky Campers. David and Lindsay, absolute legends. We rented one of their vans for 3 weeks.
Hector, the box truck with a blue door, he looked like a cabin when you slid up the back thing. Ta-da!
Ta-da! Look at that.
Another amazing thing is that it has a pull-down cover.
So we can go total stealth mode, especially parking in the Asda parking lot. It even had a wood-burning stove. We fed it with pellets and wood chips and kept us nice and warm in the wintertime.
You can see an entire tour of Hector. We're going to go ahead and put a link to him right up here. We should also talk about why we chose to fly to England out of all of the places in Europe.
Yeah, some people thought maybe we should go to Germany, but we wanted to make sure we could go through a thorough buying process and understand everything in our native English language.
Although there were a few words that are a bit different, like
the hob. What's the hob?
Hob is a stove. Language was one. Another reason was because we couldn't have our Schengen clock start ticking until a certain date, because we needed to be in France at a certain point in time. In England, we are allowed 180 days out of a 360.
Yeah, so you get half a year in England.
Yeah.
And some of you might ask, why didn't we ship our family's van to Europe? It was never ours, so we gave them back their van. We wanted to build a van of our own at that time. However, we didn't have the time because of the visa. We didn't have a workshop, and we didn't have the tools. And so, as a factor of that, we needed to find a van that was completely outfitted and done, and that's where we found the Howlin' Yowler. We just bought our first home! I can't believe this. It's our first home, babe.
Our first home, and we bought it overseas.
Yeah, wow. Wow, what a process.
But how did we find the Howler? We were living in Hector, that beautiful box truck, and for 3 weeks we traveled around England, loving new places we had never been before.
We're on the right-hand side, driving through central London, Hector right now. I'm a little nervous, but this is awesome.
This is the most iconic bridge in London, the Tower Bridge.
Wow.
She's
So
a
beautiful.
beauty.
We saw her from the top of the Shard all the way up there, but now we're driving right across her.
Going by the double-decker red buses.
Yeah. Eating delicious Indian food. If you don't know, England has the best Indian food.
We ordered takeout to our van actually too. But we were searching on Gumtree. Gumtree is the UK equivalent to
Craigslist.
Yeah. They also have eBay and Auto Trader, but Gumtree was the key for us, and we only looked at one other van before we found the Howler, and that van was an ambulance. Or a vanbulance.
And if I remember correctly, it had a big red button on the dash that the seller told us you just can't push. And we were like mortified of the fact that it was an ambulance. And on top of that, I just couldn't live with a button in our van that we owned that I couldn't push.
And if you live in an ambulance, don't take any offense. It's just our feelings towards it.
It's actually a brilliant vehicle for the fact that the whole shell of an ambulance is fiberglass and doesn't sweat with the moisture. So once we found the listing for what was to become our UK Howlin' Yowler van, we drove 3 hours back to London, checked him out, and fell in love.
The Howlin' Yowler.
The Howlin' Yowler.
He yells at the moon. The Howlin' Yowler. Da, 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 da. Da, da, da. We bought that van for $4,700 US. So with the equivalent of the currency exchange, we paid less than $5,000 for a van that we ended up taking over 40,000 miles, 2.5 years across the UK and beyond. Points of Morocco, right?
Yeah, just north of Mauritania.
Crazy!
We have 1,000 kilometers to go. That's 660 miles roughly.
Let's do it. There's so much to say about that journey, but wait. Let's look at our paper and see where we are.
And one thing I should say is we love the Howler for the fact that he had a little bit of rust, didn't look perfect, but we didn't have the prying eyes we might have had we had a beautiful looking van. It was perfect for us.
Howler, I love you. Look at you. You're so handsome. You're so rough. So tough. Look at your wheels. They've carried us so many places. The Howler ticked a lot of boxes for us. 1, like you said, he's rough and tough on the outside. 2, he was short. He was 5.1 meters, so we could get away with saying that he was 5 meters long. And in Croatia, 5 meters was the cutoff for like the huge increase in ferry crossing tickets.
That could mean like €60 increase on a very short ferry ride.
And on top of that, the roads are small. So a lot of times it's like enough room for one car to get through, but then someone would be coming at you head on and you have to scoot over and allow them to squeeze through. And if we were any bigger, I don't know how we would have navigated.
Yeah, especially in the parking lots. It was essential that we had a small compact van.
And something that I love that you did, thanks to our friends at Corky Campers who let us use their woodworking shop, which was absolutely invaluable to us. But Drew was able to kind of remove the bathroom that was...
The loo, as they say in the UK.
Yeah.
Ripping out the bathroom from the back. See that whole area right there? That's the back of the bathroom, and it's totally gonna get ripped out, and you'll see bikes hanging in there in the future.
He just removed the walls. We still had our cassette toilet.
Yeah, we find that having a toilet is an absolute necessity for long-term living in a van.
And the whole reason that we decided to take out those bathroom walls was so that we had enough room to store our bikes inside the van.
But yes, like we explained, here's the bicycles hanging up. You kind of see them through there, through the fruit basket.
We even have little hooks for the helmets.
That's right.
So we always felt super safe leaving it parked somewhere because we had nothing of interest on the outside.
No boxes on the back, no roof racks with gear on it.
No ladder.
All contained, and it kept our gear cleaner actually.
What are we forgetting anything on here before we move on?
I mean, we kind of talked about why
we got all that. Oh, here we go. Oh yeah, okay.
So some of the biggest questions.
Yeah, some of the biggest questions, the nitty gritty. Who's starting this?
Alright, so some of the biggest questions that we receive are, how did you buy a van in the UK? How did you insure it? And what are some of the restrictions or requirements, barriers you had to jump in order to make this happen?
How did we buy it?
We did a bank transfer. It was super seamless.
On top of that, we had to register the van. And I think that was the trickier part because we needed a UK address, hence my friend from elementary school who came out of nowhere. She had just moved to London. She was more than happy to share her address with us. And so because of that, we were able to register our van.
Yep. Which is essential. We've also been told that sometimes a seller will let you send the paperwork through the DVLA which is the V5C paperwork, to the seller's address. You just need an address. It takes a couple weeks, and then you have to go back and pick it up.
Then there's the MOT. Why don't you explain what that is?
The MOT is an annual inspection they have in the UK for vehicles to make sure they're roadworthy. Getting your vehicle certified through the MOT each year is essential because then you can pay your road tax. If you don't have the certification and authorization of the MOT, you can't pay the road tax, which means you'll get your vehicle booted or impounded, and you don't want that to have happen, especially if you're sleeping in your vehicle at night.
Which brings us to our next point, insurance. And we started actually with an Australian insurance company.
So I had called around as soon as we had the Howler's paperwork. I didn't know who to go to, and they kept telling me that I needed to have some proof of living in the UK for over 2 years. I needed to have kind of insurance validation from the past from other vehicles, which we didn't have. So I found 2 companies, one a vintage car company that would insure our van, or a company for Australians living in the UK, and that's exactly who I went with, and that was a lifesaver. We paid, I want to say, about €1,000 a year.
But then we ended up switching eventually. I don't remember exactly why.
Yeah, later on we ended up switching insurance companies to a US military insurance, USAA, and they were super awesome for us.
If the idea of purchasing a van abroad sounds exciting, then you'll be happy to know that we made a guide just for you. It's chock full of helpful links, more detailed info on insurance, and even has an insightful list of questions for you to consider asking your future van seller. It's simply something we wish we had had, and our hope is that it gives you the confidence you need to buy your dream camper van abroad. So we got how we bought it, we covered the insurance aspect, and then we moved in. We had all of our bases covered.
All right, one more day, another project underway and completed. News. The water's running.
And the electricity's working.
We have lights. We have, show them the water.
We have lights, we have water.
Brittany just went grocery shopping too, so.
Wait for it. Yeah!
Water! 14 gallons of water we can pump, plus we carry 4 gallons of fresh drinking water too.
We did a lot of hard work.
The oven became our heater. We were having pizza night left and right. That's why we make such a big deal about pizza night, because it brings back a lot of memories.
Good morning. It's our second real night of sleeping in the van. Can you see that? It was 28 degrees out last night. We have the oven going to get it warm here.
I want to get up, but I can't.
We gotta wait about 20 minutes while the oven heats and gets going. Anything else to say?
Morning.
Good morning.
So we were having to balance where we went based on the temperature, the seasonal conditions, me flying back for my management position, and our Schengen visa. So It was a whole bunch of, it was a big mix of batter we were trying to solve and come out with beautiful cookies.
Not only was it delicious cookies, it was delicious baguettes and croissant and German schnitzel, stroopwafels. Actually, learning how to say ice cream in like all the languages is pretty important. So you're going to want to learn how to say ice cream, thank you, bathroom. Hello. Drew and I just ordered our first Turkish coffees, and they're very strong. They're in these beautiful little copper coffee sets. Voila! Bring! It's very earthy. Would you say?
Yes, this is where we are.
Tejia Blagay.
It was all about quality of time, just really enjoying, embracing places that we were in, and that led us to so many cool experiences in embracing the culture of each country and learning some really unique things along the way.
Honestly, we felt like we were hippies thrown back into the 70s. We were following the weather patterns. We went as far north as Norway in the summer in time for the midnight sun, which was magical. We went as far south as Morocco in the winter, which was divine. And we went as far to the east as Croatia and Montenegro, mostly also because of our Schengen visas. And then everywhere in between, 40,000 miles.
So now that we're back in America, one of our biggest goals was to build another van.
We were able to build in all of the different inspirations that we gathered from the really incredibly unique vans that we met in Europe, especially those in the UK, because we went to Camp Corky, which is the annual event that Corky Campers puts on, and you were able to tour these really cool all only hand-built camper vans.
And we love that so many elements of them are repurposed or inspired by just like little bits and bobs, and they're all thrown in to make these like beautiful things that reflect their owners' personalities.
And so when you look around Spirit, our home, you can see little nuggets of our memories, like the Howler's license plate.
Ooh, there's our plate. Look at that.
Yes!
X-Men!
X-Men!
Yeah! Radical, mega stoked.
Howler, you're coming with us. Taking the spirit of the Howler in there.
The British plate with us. Or the bells that ring every time we drive that Amanda gave us, who is now the owner of the Howlin' Yowler.
Hanging out at the bus station with the beautiful little bells that Amanda, the Howler's new mom, made for us for our future new potentially rolling home. And all of our bags.
When we got back to the UK, we had met up with Joan and Dick, who were good friends of ours that we'd met in Portugal.
They invited us to their home in England whenever we returned back there, and so we reached out. They had us over for dinner, and they invited Andy and Amanda over, who had never traveled in a camper van before but were intrigued. They fell in love with the Howler, and because the Howler was too old and rusty to pass the MOT,
And it has to, for it to like be on the road, all the way down.
Yes, yeah, all the way, but also the inside is all glass now.
So it's like metal.
but they had a welding friend who could do the work for them. We decided, you know what? We're going to gift this to you.
Yeah, so having good friends on the ground there in the UK, they were able to revive the Howler because we didn't want to see him go to the crusher.
Although I've heard that the Howler has had a sex change, he is now a she named Phoenix. Because
Phoenix
he has
Rising.
risen.
That leads us back to the US again, where we're now living in this van.
It's important to know that when we returned to the US, we felt super displaced. We had a storage unit in San Diego. We were living in a friend's basement in Michigan some of the time. And then we ended up kind of living with my parents, with Drew's parents. We didn't have a place that was our own. And as a married couple, that was important to us. And so we thought, if we build out a van in the US, we'll always have something to return to, but it's also something that we don't have to pay rent for. We can easily store it away, tuck it in someone's driveway, and continue to fly to other lands, explore, maybe live in another country again, but we would always have a home to return to.
By having this van, it's really allowed us to save on rent and use our funds to explore more, connect with other people on the road, and let the adventure live on.
And we have some big plans ahead.
Yeah.
There's a video coming soon, and it's called Everything is About to Change. So get excited, because we can't wait to share everything with you.
And we have a big trip that we're going to be going on here very shortly, so we'll tell you more about that in next week's episode. And we hope by explaining some of these things, it helps you to piece our story a little more clearly.
And I think now for the rest of the day, we're actually going to edit these videos, because like we said, we have a big trip coming, and we don't want you guys to miss out on a weekly video. So we've been working our buns off trying to edit so that we can schedule them to go up for you. Well, I think that's a wrap for this one. We appreciate each and every one of you. Go ahead and show us that you appreciate us back with a big one of these. Subscribe if you haven't yet, because we got some big news coming.
Yeah, and share these videos if you think somebody else would be inspired or should see the message that we're sharing.
Until next time,
Ciao for now. It's super delicious. Look at all that mozzarella.
I actually use almond mozzarella. I don't put too much, but
Isn't that the best part of putting the cheese on the pizza? You get to take an
eat
extra
it.
handful and
Oops.
drop it in your mouth.
Yeah, it is. And now, look at this. Look at all these fresh veggies.
Let's load them on.
Alright. I also love that we get to cook together. There's not many other dishes where I get Drew's help. So, pizza night is one of my faves. For many reasons. Pizza night!
Pizza night!